How's it going, guys? Blizzard has released the start of Season 2. It's been a little bit of a crazy week. Blizzard did like a lot of changes in this patch in 11.1, especially for PvP, and it almost feels like the start of a new expansion. But yeah, they're just trying to tone down some of the one-shots. I would say that almost everything that I kind of anticipated to get nerfed has been nerfed. I'm going to kind of assume that they're going to keep a close eye on everything because there may still be like some outliers. But one thing they kind of did is like a blanket, buffed everybody, is they increased stam across the board with the two-piece bonus trinket. Although it seems like some of the stuff may not have gotten nerfed enough, maybe with the new stamina scaling of the new season, plus the increased health that you're going to get from the two-piece bonus, it'll end up feeling like it's enough. But yeah, let's just go ahead and go over it. The PvE changes at the top, I'm not really going to go over too much because I don't know much about the PvE side of things. I don't know what they needed and what they didn't. Unholy got a very tiny buff on their 2 set. I don't know anything about Demon Hunter. I don't even know if they play this stuff. So it's kind of irrelevant for me. This looks like some weird Feral Druid Weaving stuff. Sunfire damage reduced by 40%. Moonkin Form Mastery reduced by 60%, 66%. It's just very strange. I think I may have saw somebody on Twitter complaining that they had to like weave into Boomkin form in order to maximize their DPS because the buff that they got from Boomkin form mastery would stay for like 6 seconds. So they had to rotationally press Moonkin form. That's probably why that got nerfed. A little bit weird. Last night, somebody told me that Beast Mastery tier was some of the highest in the game, as well as Demonology tier bonus, and it seems like Blizzard decided to nerf that. Their 2 set shoots out a barb shot at 100% damage. It was 200% damage, and damage reduced by 50%. They reduced the damage of the 4 set, and it reduced the cooldown less than it used to on Bestial Wrath. And all ability and pet damage increased by 10%, maybe to offset that a little bit. Mistweavers are kind of a hot topic right now. They got some, pretty nice changes so far this patch, but they also have taken a bunch of healing nerfs. And although I feel like Mistweaver is very powerful in the current state, they've just gotten a handful of nerfs on top of the nerfs that they got coming into the patch. And one of the biggest things that they got buffed has been nerfed again, which is the crackle damage. We'll show that in a little bit. So I personally think that Mistweavers are going to fall behind. I think right now the best thing I've felt on Mistweaver, besides like the OP crackle damage, is the instant Shalons. Shaloons. People always make fun of me for how I say that. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but yeah, the instant Shaloons feels pretty good. Shalons. But overall, I think they are probably going to fall behind. This is irrelevant for PvP. I'm very surprised this even worked at some point. Like, if you had, 5-6 discs in your raid, the 3% damage reduction from Atonement would have stacked up on somebody. Probably would have made tanks feel immortal. And this is, Disc, in my opinion, is an S tier healer right now. This is a very big nerf. Penance, Smite, and Holy Nova now are going to deal 20% increased damage instead of 40. So, I feel like Disc did a lot of damage. Maybe this is a reasonable nerf. I don't think this is going to make or break it, but the one thing that is unfortunate for Disc is that their damage does convert to healing. I don't know if this is going to affect them too much. Right now, I would say, with how fast the meta is, I don't actually smite too often, but even when you defensively penance, your penance always hits offensively as well, so it's kind of hurting your atonement healing by, I guess 20%. But yeah, assassination all increased, damage increased by 4%. Probably not game-breaking for PvP. Secret Tech damage reduced by 5%. I think Secret Tech is actually pretty good right now, but probably unchanged. I don't know anything about Ellie right now. It looks like let's just read this. Tier bonuses were overperforming. They wanted to lower the value of tier bonuses, and then they increased their damage by 5%. I don't know if it's going to end up being better or not. I also don't know anything about enhancement. It's kind of weird. I play Shaman, and I don't know anything about the other specs, but make adjustments to the new flowing spear and talent. Yeah, I don't know anything about this. I don't know if this is a net positive or negative or... Yeah, I don't play enhanced. I apologize. Demonology, their tier set, has been nerfed because it was really good, I guess. Nerfed by 50%. Goldan increased by 20%, though. Whatever this is, 15% increase, 30% increase. Wild Imp damage is actually interesting because I feel like that's generally pretty high. 30% increase. And also, this is a talent they play, the Gloomhound, 30% increase. Those are pretty nice. I looked over these changes, and I could be crazy, but I I kind of feel like Destro is looking really good. I fought a couple Destros end season when I would say they were a little bit off meta. And they were kind of scary. So this is definitely interesting to me. I don't know what their 2 set bonuses. Your spells and abilities have a chance to hit a jackpot that fires a flurry of 6 demon bolts at 100% effectiveness. Okay, so it got nerfed, but Chaos Bolt damage increased by 20%. Chaos Bolt last patch, I was upwards of 2 million, like close to the 2 million mark or so. 20% on that is pretty big. Infernal, 35%. I don't think that's like insane by any means, because I don't think it's like super relevant damage, but it is still damage nonetheless. And I could be wrong. Wither is now going to deal damage every 3 seconds instead of every 2, which is, I think, technically a 50% nerf, but the damage is increased by 35%. It makes it more bursty, less roddy, I guess. And then the secondary part of Wither, which procs damage Blackened Soul, is increased by 40%. I feel like this is going to make the spec feel more bursty. Maybe this is an overall nerf in terms of DPS, but I feel like you kind of want to burst people anyway as Destro. So maybe it'll end up feeling pretty good. And then fire damage increased by 2%, shadow damage increased by 2%. It looks like it could be pretty solid. This is the change that we talked about. Stamina for DPS is increased by, goes from 5 to 10. Stamina for healer goes from 10 to 15. One thing to note about this is certain classes do scale better with stamina, the way their abilities work. Warlock is one of them. Their Dark Pack is percent based, which is pretty crazy. Windwalker is one of them. Karma is percent based. I can't really think of any off the other ones off the top of my head. I think Anti-Magic Shell might be based off of HP. Unironically, Earthen Wall is also based off HP, so like Earthen Wall might be better. And I also think that specs that have increased health or get increased health from talents also scale well from this. Someone in my chat actually said Fire Breath and Living Flame. That is actually true. And it's also defensive for Living Flame. So yeah, that's actually going to be nice for preservation. So like Shaman buff HP by 10%, Priest buff HP by 5%. So all these have like some kind of weird ripple effects with classes that can increase health and have health scaling. Blood DK got absolutely gutted. Mez was kind of playing that from time to time. You know, Frost DK, this is kind of like their new one-shot. I asked Mez what he thought about it, because I kind of thought maybe this talent got over-nerfed. And he said it's probably fine, because you could still do all of your other damaging abilities. So it's basically like still a brand new ability that you didn't have last patch that can still do a lot of damage. We'll see how that ends up working out. Feral Druid once again got nerfed on Incarn, and Ferocious Bite also got a 10% nerf. I like these changes. Maybe I'm a little biased. I feel like Ferals have been pretty insane all of last patch, and they'll probably still be very good, but they can rot people really hard. And yeah, they kind of took away from their burst. I feel like Incarn was kind of like a GG moment. But Magi Spark now echoes 25% effectiveness instead of 50. That seems like a pretty big nerf. I don't even know what Magi Spark does, but missiles got increased, barrage got increased. This is something that I definitely wanted to see happen, and I think that people are going to need some sort of weak aura to track, because it will still probably hurt you. But Overpowered Barrier is a new talent that mages have, that when you put up your shields, I don't know how much they absorb, let's just say they do 2 million absorb, I don't actually know. If you're attacking into it for the first 4 or 5 seconds, I don't know which one it is, when they first reapply them, it's only a short-lasting buff. It will reflect 100% of the damage. So I was fighting mages and shuffles that were legitimately just letting DPS one-shot themselves. Like, it was like Counter-Strike Totem on crack. Counter-Strike Totem was, you know, it had a crazy visual effect. You were getting zapped from a totem. The totem had 5 HP. You had to be within 20 yards of it. It had a damage cap. This just seemed so absurd in comparison to Counter-Strike Totem, and made me a little jealous. I still think, like, the visual on this is not very, like, casual player friendly, and as someone who's, you know, I guess expected to be good at the game or whatever, or elite, whatever, I don't know, this is definitely going to be kind of like nulled out from weak auras. But I think like the average player is going to attack into these barriers and just die and have no idea why, you know what I mean, or not understand that they can just wait a few seconds and then attack into them. I still think if it was left at full damage, it's kind of like a checkmate situation where if you attack the mage at all during the 4 or 5 second window, you're going to immediately die. And I feel like that's just too powerful, right? Like, I like the idea of, you know, them taking damage from attacking you, but I don't think it should always be a swap off or I'm going to instantly fall over situation. This is what we were talking about on Mistweaver. These numbers are just absurd, by the way. I don't know how this number can ever get to that. Like, how is it just not buffed, you know, at some point? But it is now nerfed to half. Will it still be viable? I want to say yes. I think the Crackling Jade build will most likely be more viable than the Kick build. Mainly because the Kick build was kind of nerfed, and it also heavily relied on Mastery, which was also nerfed. So Red Crane, the way the envelops, the instant envelops stack from Kicks, no longer works on pets. So you stack less envelops. And then on top of that, the one talent that they have from their whatever proc, like the Gust of Mist based on target's hit from their Rising Sun kick, used to proc multiple sets of Gust of Mist. That doesn't happen anymore. And on top of that, Mastery got nerfed. And on top of the fact that Mastery got nerfed, the proc that allowed Mastery to proc for more also got nerfed. So it took a lot of nerfs. And I don't really think you can lean into Mastery just taking care of business anymore. So I think you'll probably play the Kick build with instant Shalans. So every single Crackle is still going to do like 1.5 million damage, which is, that's single target, by the way, not even counting the cleave, which is still pretty good. But obviously what it was before was like you would Crackle someone and they would just take, you know, 3.5 million damage or something. It would be, it was a little ridiculous. Now, I must say, I personally thought Slicing Winds would get nerfed by a lot more than 20%. I think this is a very, very tame nerf. I would have expected to see a 50% nerf at this point. But like I said, health is going up, so maybe they didn't want to overdo it, and it's possible it ends up getting nerfed more next patch. But I've had Slicing Winds for like 3.5 million, so 20% off that would be like 2.75 million or something, right? Like, it would still be a really, really big hit. Maybe it's not going to matter too much. I've seen Mortal Strikes for 2.5 million, 25% off that would be about 2 million, which is obviously still a really big hit. Execute by 20% for arms. I don't know what the biggest execute I saw for arms was. I don't even know if execute was that insane. Oh, that's increased. Oh, okay. Oh, apparently execute damage got increased. Yeah, I don't even remember seeing crazy executes from arms. So maybe that's a fair compensation. Execute damage reduced by 15%. They're basically rebuffing it just a little bit. So it's definitely not anything crazy. And I've seen the 3.5 million final hit demolishes. So this taking a bigger nerf than Slicing Winds, I guess, is maybe okay. Rampage by 15%. This is their top damage. Bladestorm by 15%. Dude, I feel like Fury Warriors are randomly always Bladestorming, so I guess maybe that's okay. So Fury got toned down a little bit. Arms got toned down a little bit, and this is really strange, but Protection Warriors were actually low-key insane, and they were doing like 2 million non-crit executes like all the time. Now, to go over to like my list of what I thought should be nerfed, Prot Warrior Execute was on the list. Fire Mage was on the list. Because Blazing Barrier was actually really crazy. Slicing Winds was on the list. Frosty K one-shot thing was on the list. Crackling Jade Lightning Mistweaver was on the list. Mortal Strike was on the list. The only thing that I have as an outlier here that did not get nerfed was Aim Shot. And Aim Shot is still really, really crazy. I think another thing I could have put on this list was probably Sub Rogue. I feel like Sub Rogue is kind of crazy. But maybe Sub Rogue and Aim Shot get kind of like, I don't know, maybe they don't feel like they're going to be as much of a problem with the increased stam and whatnot. But yeah. Oh yeah, also maybe Flanking Strike. Yeah, someone's saying Flanking Strike. But so couple Hunter outliers, maybe Sub Rogue, but guess what? Bad news for you guys. Blizzard doesn't like to nerf Rogue, so we might be in that meta again. So yeah, almost everything I thought would get nerfed or should get nerfed has been nerfed. Now we got to see where things like fall into place. I think certain classes are going to get more and, you know, more powerful than others based off their tier. And I think that's something that Blizzard has to kind of wait and see to adjust for. So for example, like right now, I think that Resto Shaman is like the best healer. That's my personal opinion. We're going to gain no power throughout the whole season. We don't get a 4-set. You know, when Druid's 4-set is like Life Bloom randomly has a chance to put up a hot. You know what I mean? Like, so all in all, I think like the nerfs that were on this list are definitely good. Like, what I would like to see in the future is to try to buff some of the underperforming specs. And some of the underperforming specs that I think right now from a healer point of view, and I could be wrong about this, but I personally feel like Druid is underperforming, although their tier set's insane. I think their 4-set, which we don't have. I think Holy Priest is probably the worst healer right now. I would like to see some love for them. I kind of feel like Prez has fallen off a little bit. Mistweaver I have is S tier right now, but I think Mistweaver is going to fall down a lot after this Crackle nerf. I think they're going to feel significantly worse. And I would say this list could get completely flipped upside down because Preservation does a lot better in a slower meta because they don't have any damage reduction and all of their healing is based on a 20-second CD, your Empower spells. So if you're constantly just getting hammered and you don't have enough time to like get through the cycle of that CD, you're not going to be very powerful. And Resto Druid's based purely on heal over time effects, right? In a slower meta, Resto Druid might just be insane. And I think one of the biggest things that I feel like people aren't realizing in Shuffle, because it's not an issue in Shuffle, is I don't think you're going to as Resto Druid. When you go Ancient of Lore, you could sit here and spam the Never Die button, and it costs no mana. You know what I mean? I know people hate this new Broccoli form. I, for one, actually think it's good. But yeah, so this tier list of healers is going to be completely flipped upside down just based on how DPS feel. You know, I think even Holy Priest, which I think is the worst healer right now, you plug that in with a Rogue Mage, they go Chastise Healer somebody, and the Rogue Mage is just going to Control Alt Delete them. Some pretty solid changes to start the season. I'm happy that, you know, Blizzard is kind of on top of it. I would like to see some more changes, maybe based off week 1 or even week 2, just based off underperforming specs. But yeah, you know, round of applause for Blizzard. It's been a fun, like, in-between season so far. There was a lot of really, really cool changes, and hopefully they could just keep it up, man, because WoW is fun, and everybody wants to have fun. But yeah, good luck with Season 2. Peace out. Thanks for watching.
That can never be lonely. Be the fan, that's